Kia ora. Welcome back to the Ins and Outs podcast. I'm Kun.
I'm Jamila, and we're here to have casual and informative conversations about how to navigate the music industry in Aotearoa.
As part of the Ins and Outs podcast, we organized and recorded a handful of panels at Movespace in Tāmaki Makaurau. We've decided to pop these up as bonus episodes to round off this season of the podcast. On this panel, we had a kōrero with Silke Hartung, Catherine Parsons, and Pippa about the ins and outs of an artist press kit.
Silke is the editor for the NZ Musician magazine. Kat is a music journalist and has just started her own PR company. And Pip is an artist manager, publicist, and project manager for a range of artists, including Tammy Nielsen and Troy Kingi.
We talked about what goes into an artist press kit, the do's and don'ts of an email pitch, and much, much more.
Let's dive into it.
Hi, my name's Pippa. I'm an artist manager. I manage Tammy Nielsen, Delaney Davidson and Jenny Mitchell, and I do project management and publicity for Troy Kingi, and I'm chairperson of Independent Music New Zealand. So we're a music industry body who represents all artists, basically all artists who aren't signed to a major label, which in New Zealand is most artists. So we're there to provide knowledge services, advocacy, and we also run the Tape Music Prize, which celebrates the best album of the year on artistic merit rather than sales. And we run a couple of conferences, Going Local, which is taking knowledge all around the country, and Going Global, which is about taking your music internationally.
Hi, my name is Silke. I have done many things over the years. Since I was little, I've been working at events in music, studied multimedia production and communication, all the while slipping into radio, migrating to New Zealand, doing nothing for a good long while as migrants do. We've all made coffee at some point, haven't we? Then got into 95 BFM, where I did news writing, and then sort of rubbish shows and then better shows, including the New Zealand music show Frequency, for which I probably did longer than most. Was hired by New Zealand Musician magazine probably about 13 years ago, something a long time ago. The magazine has been going for 35 years this year, so it's been around for a good long while. In print still, which is great. We only just released a new issue. And online, so year-round, so 2 print issues per year. And wall planner and a website and a newsletter, and that keeps me pretty busy. I curate. I'm office admin. That's probably most of the job. I'm trying to make articles happen and making sure we've got all materials for it. So I am one of the last steps between your music and the people out there to show them your music. That's my job. My job is to show people nice music.
Hi, I'm Kat. What do I do? I did the music course with Jamila and Kun, all in different years, but that's how I met them. I'm currently studying postgraduate in journalism and communications, which has been quite hard work, but it's helping me kind of work out what I need to do to make things happen. I'm also an artist, sort of. We're working on a project. It's coming.
You're an artist.
It's cool. I'm very excited. But yeah, I've been focusing on helping younger artists or less known, experienced artists with release plans, press kits, PR, outreach. And I work for 5am doing that, specifically PR and press kit creation for the signed artists, which is been a lot of fun. They're all really young. That's like what Rory, who owns the company, his focus is on young artists that he can kind of help support and move into the wider world. So it's really nice working with like 16 and 17-year-olds who have no idea and kind of giving them advice and support and stuff. And I do some freelance of the same thing on the side.
Oh, well, this is great. This is kind of exactly what we're tailoring today too, right? Like, I'm releasing an EP, or I want to get more, traction with what I do, or I have no clue what I'm doing. Where do we start? Like, what even is a press kit is kind of the title of today, and it just sums it up, right? So it's kind of tailored to you guys. Like, what can we provide to you guys? But at the same time, what can Jamila and I learn? Like, at the same time as well. So really, guys, like, if you have like maybe a 1 or 2 liner summing up what a press kit is, just to start it off, that's great, because the word gets thrown around a little bit and it can be misunderstood. So maybe Kat, we'll start with you. Like, you've obviously written quite a few or helped artists put together a few press kits. What is a press kit?
Yeah, I think depending on the project, like sometimes it's for a full EP or album, and then sometimes it's just for singles. I guess it's just like an introduction to the song that can be grabbed by publications, so that, you know, if you're sending your song into a magazine or a radio station, they've got the information there at hand. They don't need to go and do their own research, because that's when you lose people's interest. They don't have time to go and do all of the external. I've done that. I did it for Silke, where people didn't send us information. I'd spent hours trying to find who these artists were. So it's an introduction to the song, and you should always have a bio about yourself included, so it's just easy access, grab and present. That's a terrible explanation, but carry on. You guys are good.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, in my day-to-day work, I work for a magazine, so for me it's quite specific, and I am currently not radio, and I'm currently not TV, so I think a press kit you should put some thought on who the press kit is for, and maybe cater to everyone in different ways. For example, seeing that I'm not a radio station, if you send me a WAV file, I just go, what? What am I going to do with this? I'm not a radio station, you know. Even MP3s I can't do much with. I playlist things on the day they come out, and I require streaming media for albums in advance to the album coming out. So that's what I require. A radio station may need a WAV file. I don't know what a TV station is, to be honest. But, you know, everybody needs different things, and it's sort of your job to think about what assets will I have for releasing my song or my EP or my event, telling people about my event. What do I need for that, and how can I get that to people in a way that they can work with that in a way as easy as possible, so that they don't have an excuse not to do something.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah. Kind of going on what Kat is saying, like make it as easy as possible for the people that you're trying to work with, so that they're more inclined to say yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Absolutely. Pip, any thoughts?
Yeah, very, very much all that. Except my first question is, you probably need to consider, why do I need one and what do I need it for? You need something that is going to represent you to whoever you want to present it to, be it TV, radio, magazines, booking agents, directly to venues, other people in the music industry. And you need something that represents you and your music. And it needs to be something that represents you in a very succinct, short way, so that the person who you want to use it can exactly do that, grab the information that they need and use it in the way that they need to use it. So normally a press kit does actually contain all the things that would suit all the people that you might be pitching to, and then they can just pull out the things that are relevant to them. And in terms of text, I would say the most important thing is to present your text in a Word document format, so that it can be copy and pasted as simply as possible. If you make it difficult, like there's many beautiful ways to present information, going from PDFs to MailChimp to all sorts of other digital media type forms. A lot of those are very hard to copy and paste the information into whatever format the other person is wanting to use. So including a Word doc with all your text means that, one, your information is less likely to get represented wrongly, and two, you'll have a much higher hit rate of being featured somewhere, because somebody can just go, grab that, copy, paste it, put it in my newsletter, grab that, copy, paste it, put it on that website. So,
Google Doc, because you can also then put the settings so that no one can change it, but they can grab it, and then you can also alter it if things change, if dates change, you can alter it and it will change to everyone who's got that link. That's what I always use,
And if your computer crashes halfway through, you still have the assets sitting there without
Fine,
losing
on the
everything.
cloud.
Start at the beginning, that's right.
Plus, you know, people don't have to download it. Whereas if you send a doc file, that's something else that's going to live on your computer, and people are quite allergic, of course, to downloading, because if you're editing a magazine, you're going to have a lot of files to download.
Untitled version 15 final
Yes.
/final untitled.
So I guess
wave.
a lot of that is also like skim reading, or not even skim reading, like triple checking before you hit send to make sure that it's like my artist name, short bio, or like bio. For instance, actually, the bio that I really prefer using is the first top is literally 2 lines. It's for maybe festivals or whoever needs a short bio, and it's just titled short bio. And then on the same doc underneath it has a medium bio, longer bio. For instance, maybe Silke, if we're doing like an article or something, you might want all the information on the band. And so there's way more if you choose to use that. Whereas if it's featured in, say, the newsletter for Independent Music New Zealand, tiny little bite, go find more, here's the link. So I guess, yes, tailoring it to who you're sending it to is crucial. And that's, I guess, the text that we're putting in, right? So we're putting in a bio, which everybody kind of knows what a bio is. But then there's, of course, many ways of writing a bio. And honestly, that's a panel on its own. And we're doing a workshop next week where we will be writing bios with everybody who comes, which we're really excited about this year to present as a workshop. But what else goes into a press kit, and why is it really important to have those things? And yes, is it the same for everybody? Can you just send, like, say, for instance, an EPK to everybody, which is electronic press kit, one sort of thing fits all, or is that not such a good format because maybe it's harder to copy, maybe it's not as relevant for everybody, maybe you're shooting yourself in the foot by having one thing that's maybe really easy for you but not so easy for everyone that you're tailoring it to?
I'm already cringing about the word EPK because that is unfortunately what a lot of tertiary educational institutes teach their students: get an EPK ready. And in the broader sense, yes, you need to get an EPK ready, but they teach a lot of people to create a big PDF, which for me is the one format. Like, every time I get a PDF, I sit there and go, no, I can't copy out of this. I can't even, sometimes you can't even click the links because it was saved as a graphic.
Yeah.
So you kind of have to find yourself a text to Word converter or something. And it's just, for me, it's a nightmare to process any sort of PDF. So yes to EPK because it means electronic press kit. It's just a question of how you present it. For example, an EPK could be on your website where you just have a nice little corner that contains a text with your bio that can be copied and pasted, that can have links to low-res pictures, high-res pictures, can be just a Dropbox where you've got structured folders for any and all of these things. One thing for me, personally, that I'm constantly missing in emails and EPKs and press releases is that people tell me, there's an album coming. I'm like, yay! That's so great. Let me hear it. And then there's no music, like no music whatsoever. Like it might not be the right format, but if there's any music, I'm already sort of halfway. I go, oh, cool, it exists. So I theoretically have access. It doesn't work for me. Please send me a different format. But not to send me music when you announce an album stops it right there because I can't show it to anyone. I can't listen to it. And that's nice that you grew up in Zimbabwe or wherever. That's a bad example. But it's nice to have your bio. But without the music, that's where it stops. So it's like, for me, the one thing I feel you should take away is, you're musicians, you're trying to sell me music. Please make sure there's music available.
How do you best like to receive the music? What format?
For me, we did a lot of trial and erroring. For a long time, we didn't care how we would receive the music until writers started saying, I can't actually open any of these things on my phone. And okay, let me say what I prefer and why I prefer it. So I prefer hidden SoundCloud links because SoundCloud is free. The quality is okay, and we find it works pretty much flawlessly without having to put in a password on any and all devices. And when you imagine a writer who already does not get paid, they write this article because they really enjoy what you do. They want to listen to that on the bus or on the train to work. They maybe don't even have a CD player. Personally, sorry, I don't have a CD player anymore. I need a version of the file that works. So there are places that ask you for money to put stuff up, Disco, and there are many services that you can pay for that look really great. But we find that there are people who don't have snazzy phones and it doesn't work for them. So that's why when you send me a format that I can't deal with, I will probably send back, look, we prefer SoundCloud. This is how you set it up on SoundCloud for free in a way that it's hidden. And you give me the link, and this is a secret link. No one else will ever find it. And then the writers can just press that link on their phone and listen to it wherever they want on their devices. And that equalizes the playground basically a little bit as well, because you don't have to pay somebody $30 a month to host your things in a secret way.
It's very common practice. SoundCloud is pretty much the norm, unless maybe
there
people
are other
specifically
services as well.
using
Probably
Disco and
I'm not
stuff.
fussed as long as I can get, if it's an album specifically, basically the format that SoundCloud gives you, where you press play and then it plays it through. But I can still go, I need to listen to song 3 once more because I didn't quite hear the lyrics. So you can click on song 3 and hear that. So some people will try to send me hidden YouTube links, and it's just one block of 53 minutes, and it's like,
That's rough.
theoretically not bad, but how do I know which song is which? What are they called? And can I listen to that song again? It's not making it. You can do that, but people usually don't. So that's why I go with what's the easiest format for people to deal with that will work for my writers, and that will work just basically for everyone. So I find SoundCloud. It's free, okay quality. You can make it work whichever way you want. Yeah. So
Awesome. So
that's
we've got
my perspective.
a press kit that includes a bio, maybe short and long, or a link to a bio, a link to your music, which you're promoting, and what else? Photos. You're saying low res, high res, couple of different photos, maybe portrait, landscape, etc., etc. Yeah, dive in. It's okay. Go crazy.
Yeah, okay. I don't want to take over
No.
because you probably have. You might please interrupt me. You have or add to it because you have different
Look,
coming from an
I've been
artist
told off by
perspective.
Silke before by sending the wrong photos.
It's not. It's less telling off than my heart than me going. Oh my God, I want to make this happen. We're this far, and I need that photo. So. This comes from a perspective that I can give you entire university papers on. It's psychological. I've done research. My one job is to get people to read the article someone lovingly wrote for many, many hours on you for music that took you years sometimes to make. I want people to click that and find out about how awesome you are. They will not click a photo if you send me a photo like this. They will not send me. They will not click it if you're wearing sunglasses, if your hat is over your face, if your artist photo is entirely blurred. I don't mind how old you are. The people have to make a connection with you and your eyes, your facial expression. You have all the creativity in the world to make the most amazing, outstanding photos. But this is usually, and preferably I deal with very young artists as well that haven't had many articles written about them. You are not Bono. You can't wear glasses and people go, it's Bono. Yeah. You're not that. You are new to these people. We want people to recognize you and we want them to click the article. I need your face.
Yeah.
All the band. I can't have five people stand there, all sunglasses, hats over the face and go, I don't care. That's not a photo I can use. And that's often a point of issues between bands and us, but where I come from is that I have to look out for I'm looking at you, you're not even really counting so much writing for, but the thing is, my writers, and Jamila as well, and you've written for us.
Yeah.
This is a lot of work, right? Like you spend a lot of work and you do not get paid for it as writer. People do it out of love. It is, you, as an artist, you have to honor the work somebody does because they like what you do by making sure somebody will actually read that. And I put a lot of work on the back end that no one ever sees, where I just type keywords, link things, bold
SEOs,
things, embed things. We all spend so much time on you because we think you're so rad. So give us a rad photo that people will actually want to click.
Yeah.
I think a logical way to think about your press kit and most things in life, but especially when it comes to common sense, if you feel like you're treating people like idiots, it's probably a good thing. And I don't mean that in a rude way to everyone else, but like if you're making it so accessible and so easy, even to a point where you're like, this seems really, really silly, like I'm over-explaining myself or I'm putting too much stuff into this one place that's easy access, that's what you want. It's the same with like journalism for me, like my course. We write it for people so it's easy. Like if you go and read an article online, most people just skim read. People don't read every single thing. So there's no point putting a whole load of excess gobbledygook in it, because people aren't going to pay attention to that. You want it simple, accessible, and it's the same for your links. Like if everything's in one place, and so, you know, it gets sent to Silke, Silke can click on the link and get all the music, easy, get all the photos, easy. That's what you're trying to make everyone else's life simple, because that's when you're going to get people interested in you. Because I wrote an entire article, we were talking about this before, for the magazine. This is pre some of Silke's new rules, but I wrote an entire article. It took me hours. It was an interview-based article, so I'd actually had a conversation with the band, and they didn't provide a photo that was usable, and so we never released that article. So it was like hours of work from both of us. Even from them, they'd taken time out to talk to me, but didn't listen to the initial email. And so again, like you're making people's life easier, but you're also making sure that you can actually have your stuff out where people are. Yeah.
And it's being respectful, right?
Yeah.
Yes, exactly what you're saying. People are doing it for free, and you want to help each other. You want to create, I guess that's what PR is, public relations, right? It's like a two-way conversation. We're like, hey, what do you need from me? And I'm happy to provide it. Or even before that, once you've gone to a panel like this and you're like, okay, well, I need to include this, having everything ready and like, hey, random person I haven't met, I've done my research. I now know who you are. Hi, Silke from NZ Musician. I really love what you do with the magazine. Let's do an article together. Here's my music. Here's everything else. Let's do it. And you know that inclines you more to do the article. Yeah.
We're incredibly time poor.
Totally.
You know.
Still on the photos though, it's taking all those things into account. An artist photo is a really good way for you to instantly try and connect with an audience that you want to connect with, and to let people know, this is my brand, this is who I am, this is what I look like, and potentially this is what I sound like. So as an artist, you're creating your profile as an artist, which is your own brand, and one really good photo is a really, really good way of portraying that. So when you do have your artist photos taken, just think about how you make that photo relevant to your music, so
Absolutely.
that the photo can speak for itself as well.
And that people will click that. People that like metal music will go, oh, they look like a band I'd listen to. You know?
That's exactly it. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. Well, that's great. We've got like 3 things now, right? We've got a bio, we've got maybe links to your music, and we've got some really great photos. It's loads to go on. When you're, Can
I say a little bit about the bio?
Yes, totally.
So I speak to lots of emerging artists, and a lot of people think, I haven't done very much, so I haven't got anything to say. But that's not necessarily true. Everybody's done something. Everybody's won some kind of awards. Everybody's had something interesting happen in their careers and their developments that have led them to the part where they're releasing some music. So those are the things that people want to hear about. And when you write your bio, it's really important to think, what are the things that are interesting about me? Now, it's really hard to talk about yourself, because everybody thinks, well, nobody's interested in, where I've come to this space. Sometimes it actually might help for you to ask your best friend to write down some things about you, because they're the people who know you really well, and you might be surprised at the points that they put first that are the interesting things about your career. And your personal life too, because sometimes personal things come into it to make the story interesting as well. So don't forget about that. Don't forget that from the outside you are a really interesting person, and you want to capture the people who are going to be reading that. So instead of starting off your bio saying, I went to primary school and such, start off your bio with, I won this award, or I finished this course, or I wrote this song with such and such.
Yeah.
Start off with the most interesting thing to grab people straight away. I supported this band.
Totally, actually.
There's no bottom or high up tier. Like, I mean, in the end, we need to feature people that are really well known, but we also are constantly looking out for new people that clearly have not played the main stage at Splore before or whatever. That's not what I'm after. One very basic thing I wish people would mention in the bio really early on is, where they're from and what genre they play in, because sometimes you get an email and it just says, Peter, here's a link. And then I go, but are you even a Kiwi? We only deal with New Zealand music. So I have to figure out, thank you to the internet, where there's no music or any information available sometimes, if you're even a Kiwi. So now I have a thing where I send back a little, can you fill out the gaps here?
Yeah.
And then I go, oh, I'm sorry, you're from Boston and you live there for good and you're an American. I'm sorry, I can't help you. Yeah.
And it kind of comes back to that research, right? You're sending an email to Silke, for instance, or to Pip, or to Kat, and saying like, hey, I'd like to work with 5am, or I'd like to work with Enzo Musician. I'd like to be featured on the independent music. You know, like we're talking independent musicians in New Zealand. So, which is luckily all of you guys.
With everybody here, yeah.
But that's the thing, right? If you're maybe reaching out to media overseas, you can do the same research. You can go, okay, well, do these guys feature only, you know, it's an Australian magazine. Do they only feature Australian musicians? Is it like, is it valuable for me to pour my time into like sending an email here? Well, you can still obviously get in touch, but you know, yeah, exactly what you're saying. Like, you're not going to feature someone from Boston who lives in Boston,
But Kiwi.
Unless he's a Kiwi overseas, right? And that's a super interesting angle. And started off with that.
And if you get something in a magazine or anywhere, any kind of review online, any review at all, like pick out some interesting sentences, and sometimes they work as a way to start off introducing yourself. So this artist like represents himself really well. They, you know, this is how they played. Use that. Say where you got it from, and then you can start off. And it's another way of grabbing people's attention to start off with.
Could you use testimonials?
Yes.
Reviews from friends?
Sure thing.
Totally.
Yeah, like maybe that as a starting off point.
So, for example, one of the young artists that I recently did press for, it's her first single that came out, well, her first main single. She's not done much. She didn't have any reviews like until now. Luckily, I don't know what happened. It was a really great campaign, and she now has content that she can put into the next lots of releases. I always think there should be quotes, whether it's from previous articles or like, you know, even just like radio quotes, if you can have recordings of that. But I also think there should always be a personal quote from you about the song, because that's what people who are writing your articles or, you know, introducing your stuff onto the radio, that's what they love, is they can do it's more personal. So I got this girl, Frankie, to just explain her songwriting process about the meaning behind it, and then I took that, edited it, and made it into a quote for her. So that's now grabbable. Personal, especially for independent artists, personality is like your biggest thing. So your press kit and your bio should reflect you. It shouldn't just be a word for word list of things that you've done. You need to write it in a way that represents your music. And like Pippa said, like you can get your friends to it. That's how I started working and creating press kits when I was in uni with these guys. People hate it. Everyone hates writing their own stuff. I love that. That's my thing. I love writing. So my friends who are releasing songs would get me to write their bios and their release stuff. And it made it easy. And now that's something that I can do for a job, which is lovely. But yeah, you can do it. You can get friends to kind of write little bits for you and you can grab it. I will say when it comes to bios, I don't know if this is like the same for you guys. I don't like it when you're writing in first person. I find that, I don't know if unprofessional is the right word. I would prefer the bio to be written like, you know, for example, if it was me, like Margot, the pseudonym of Catherine Parsons is, you know, this, writing from that point of view rather than going, hi, I'm this person, this is what I want to do.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, because if any media want to copy and paste it, they can't copy and paste the first person.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And people will probably see you as more professional already if it sounds like cheeky, but it kind of sounds like someone's writing it for you anyway. So it seems more professional if it sounds like you've got a team working for you, which most people know that's not the case, but it looks and sounds better. Yeah.
I've got a question. What if you're socially awkward, like say you're like Bob Dylan or Emma Parkey or Hope Sand, or you're like a brilliant musician, but you don't present well because of Asperger's or whatever. Is there any specific way to mitigate that? Because a lot of people want to, like you socially, but if you're socially awkward, that's difficult.
Ask for help.
Yeah, and
You
actually,
know, you don't have to be the one running the show. You find somebody who can help you, and if you have to give them, pay them to do it, then you do it. We all fill our gaps. I'm not good at everything, so I ask for help when I need it. I can be socially really weird, and so you just deal with that.
So you say you want to make that your point of difference as an artist. Like I'm a socially
But
awkward
why
artist.
point it out?
Well, I mean, rather than
I mean, you could,
having
but
people go through a disappointment, oh, this guy's a nerd, or
yeah,
this guy's
but you want to highlight positives. You don't want to, like, for example, I get a lot of press releases that start sort of like, and I've got cancer, and I'm like,
Whoa.
but is the music good? Sorry, but is the music any good? It is not super, So it doesn't. In the end, that just makes me feel like a dick if I don't feature it because the music isn't good, because clearly you've got something else going on. So really, to me, I don't care if you're socially awkward, if your music is great. Some of my favorite musicians have all sorts of issues, and that's why I love them. I don't care if you're socially awkward. I would say highlight the positives, the songwriting, use adjectives that describe the music in a way that sort of maybe implies it comes from a difficult background, but don't say to people, I've got Asperger's, because then you're like, I've got a disability, feature me. And I'm like, well, but is the music good? That just puts...
Just don't go there.
Yeah. Highlight the positives, as you should in real life. You don't go around telling people all your issues when you meet them for the first time either. So.
Because I mean, a lot of big artists are socially awkward.
Heck yeah. And
For
why
sure.
not, if there's a sensitive interview and you can sort of, and you trust the person and know that theoretically you can tell them at the end of the interview, can you please not use these bits? And every writer, like when you get our guidelines, there's always that bit where we say, and remember at the end of the interview, you say to the artist, are there parts of this that you would prefer for me not to use? Just because you don't push awkward stuff onto people out there, or you might regret saying certain things, you don't, it's just...
And this is, of course, where you guys come in handy, right? Like PR managers or publicists who, that's their job, is writing articles for your friends or bios for your friends, and that eventually turns into a job. That's how a lot of those jobs come about. And I guess what for younger artists or new artists who maybe don't know the ropes just yet, where's the value there, right? For getting a PR manager on board or building your team up.
Well, I know different experiences. A lot of my freelance work that I do is with people I know. So I've done smaller campaigns, bigger campaigns. Mine's a bit different because mine kind of tends to interweave with me also running the release itself, not always being involved in every point, but helping the artist come up with a plan so they know exactly what they're doing at each time. I usually do like a calendar, and we set out the time frame for their release. So my press kit work and my PR work kind of all intertwines. When it comes to, I'm not saying we're all, as artists, most of us are broke. Paying money for stuff like that, it's hard. My brother is, a lot more established as an artist than other people in my area, and he's been doing it for 10 years, and he's tried everything. And some of the big PR companies are not worth the money if you're not at the right place in your career. So if you, for example, me, I haven't released my new project. It's my first project in this artist's name. There's no way that I'm going to go and pay $1,000 to a PR company and expect them to just make my entire song be amazing, because it's not going to work, because I'm not established enough. You have to meet things halfway. So you kind of have to. I don't go to my clients, I guess, promising them that they all going to get, signed or in every article and stuff. I go in giving them the support and the care and the confidence that they could actually probably do what I've done next time by themselves. That's what I try and do, because that's my goal, is wanting to help smaller artists who don't have the support, because I watched my brother hustle for 10 years without much support, basically trying to navigate it. Now he's got that support and I've been able to watch it. I can use what I've learned to help smaller artists. So I think when it comes to you guys approaching other people to help with PR and press and stuff, be careful about who you're working with. You want someone that kind of understands you. Not everyone's going to be perfect for everyone. Like, I was working with two girls and they wanted to do it themselves, and I knew that. So I gave them the advice they needed, and then I backed off, and it's worked really well, and I'm really proud of them. But they wanted to be able to do things themselves, and I think that's good, but not everyone wants that. Some people want to have that support the whole way through. So find someone that you feel comfortable and confident with, and it's not like an expectation thing. So if for example, if you were going to work with me, I would never tell you, okay, cool, we're going to get you into Sniffers, Happy Mag, whatever, all that sort of stuff, because I can't guarantee that. What I can guarantee is we create something that looks good, presents well, and then I can show you how to put that out. I also, just to backtrack a little bit, I always consider the email part of the process of an EPK or a press kit.
Yeah.
They're not the same thing. They're two separate things, but they go together. You're not going to regurgitate everything in the press kit into your email, and vice versa. The email has to be more focused on the person you're emailing. And then your press kit is you, in a nutshell, being presented to that person. That was all over the place, but I made my points.
No, it was a good backtrack as well, because it is really important to, again, like, do the research and say, like, hi, I would like to be featured in your magazine because of this reason, rather than here I am, feature me now, you know?
Okay.
Yes.
Before you, sorry, I was like observing all of this.
Yeah.
Before we like go on to sort of, as we might be moving away from one conversation to another.
Sure.
I think something that would be really good to cover is, because we've talked about the press kit, but I think there's been a little bit of blurred lines between press kit and press release, and those two things are different. And so I'd like it if we could, I think it would be cool if you guys could just go over a little bit of like, so we talked about a press kit, maybe what is the difference between, because you're starting to talk about emails again, which is also like kind of the third thing. So if we could talk about, I mean, maybe you were going to ask this as well.
It is on the list. It is, no, you're right.
So like now I'm like,
This is a great time.
where it would start to get potentially.
Yeah, so the difference between a press release and a press kit. So I guess a press kit is maybe what we've been sort of talking about.
The assets.
The assets, exactly. They live in your Dropbox or your Google Drive, or even on your hard drive, who knows. And a press release is what? What's the difference? That's the question.
I think a press kit should be updated regularly, but can be somewhat static, because you don't constantly need new photos, just sort of every once in a while, depending on the project. And I think press releases are probably quite project focused. So be it that single, that music video, that gig, that tour, that album, whatever else could possibly happen, but it's definitely around that project. And I would not shotgun it out to people who don't really worry about it, but just be quite selective in who you send it to, depending on what it is.
It's usually an announcement. It's an announcement that you're wanting the media to know what's happening with you as an artist. And most people would probably say to you that direct emails, targeted emails, are a much better way to connect with people. So, and I personally find that. So instead of BCCing a whole big group of people on your list, never ever CC everybody in your database. BCC people, but if you do that, then one, you risk it going into people's junk files, and two, it's not targeted, so that people will know, okay, they've sent this out to heaps of people. Is it? I don't know if it's relevant for me. Can't be bothered to read it. I'm so busy. But if an email starts off hello with my name, then I'm like, know that person who sent it was thinking about sending it to me, and for that reason, you will get a higher hit rate of people actually reading your information and then eventually, hopefully, doing something with it. So targeted emails are the way to go. And don't get too bogged down in all of this as I just want to make music. So, don't get too bogged down in like, oh my God, now I have to do all this other stuff. It is actually part of being an artist. If you choose to do this as your career, then it's just the same as if you chose to work in the bank or work at the supermarket even, or be an architect or be a doctor. Everything you choose to do to earn an income, you have to actually learn skills to do that job. And this is exactly the same. So just add it to the skills that you're learning as a musician. Think of it that way. So eventually when you're a higher profile artist, you can hopefully afford to pay other people to do these jobs for you. But in the beginning, I think it's really, really important that you do actually learn to do it yourselves. Because one, if in the future you are going to pay somebody to do that job, then you actually need to know what you're paying for. You need to know what your expectations are when you pay somebody to do a job for you.
Totally.
So one good way to do that is to actually learn what that is. So if you learn how to create all this information and then how to reach out to people in the media, you'll actually learn how much work that is, and you'll understand why it costs that much money if you pay somebody. But two, you're upskilling yourself, so you're understanding what makes your business work. So they are really important things to learn.
Yeah, no, that's spot on. It comes back to knowing what you're paying for, and no, absolutely.
I think that's like a pretty standard thing in the music industry across the board. Like, for example, I did a recording workshop with Emily a month ago. I'm never going to be a producer. I know this about myself. Not for other people, I mean. I can do my own stuff. But I want to know what I'm doing when I'm in with a session so that I can actually voice my opinion, because I've been in sessions where I've had no control and then the music has come out not how I want it. So it's the same thing. It's learning how to do it yourself so you have more control over your project and your career. I think everyone should know at least a small amount of everything they're doing, even if it means, doing a little bit of extra work at the beginning.
Yeah, and even if you are eventually paying a publicist, yes, it takes like load off your plate, but it doesn't mean that you're not still involved in writing the bio and taking the photos. Like,
exactly, like
photos are still of you. And,
Harry now has people who do that for him, but he is involved in the process. He has the conversations. He'll go out his way. If he feels like something's important, he'll put his voice in, because he's been doing it for 10 years. So he knows where his music fits in. Whereas you can see sometimes when people get signed or pay for it, they don't actually even know where their music's been sent out to. So you should always have, especially when you're doing it yourself, you should always have control over what's going on. Don't let people take that control away by not understanding yourself how to do something.
I think one thing that's really underrated when it comes to sending out press releases is that it's very simple to ask your friend for their mailing list and just take those contacts, put them somewhere and use other people's contacts. But what I often say when I mentor people is to set aside a Monday night at 8:00 when you don't usually do stuff and actually do the research yourself. Once a week, you look at what's happening at New Zealand Musician, what's happening on the 13th floor, what does musicnet.nz talk about right now, and know the writers who might be into your music because they cover artists that you have played with that are similar to you. Find your contacts, not just the general context of the website, but find the specific DJs that play music like your music on the radio stations. Listen to an hour of BFM during your day, go to Radioactive for an hour, and think about where you're at in your career. Obviously, if you're currently focused on New Zealand, you do that for New Zealand, and you actually make an effort on knowing what people are doing, how they're doing it, who's doing it, because I think that's invaluable to have that information from your own experience and for your own project. Also, in case you run into someone one day, then you can genuinely say, oh my God, I read your article on that person and we should talk because we like the same music. We can, and instantly, if you're genuine about that, we know. I get so many emails that start with, hey Silke, big fan of the magazine. And you kind of know they don't, like, if you can genuinely make maybe a connection or even build up friendships with people who are into what you do and so on, no publicist can ever make that happen for you. And I think a lot of people in New Zealand who do really well are also incredibly sociable and will make a point in saying hello and introducing themselves and, hey, I read your stuff, blah, blah, or whatever. That you kind of want to try to do that. And it starts with maybe 1 hour a week where you just do a sweep of relevant media and look at websites and Facebooks and
it's going to get easier, right? Because
totally.
Because once you've said, hey, Silke, I really like this article that you did on my friend's music or this band that I played with, da-da-da-da-da, now we're talking. And then before you know it, it's like,
Personally, I'm totally immune to flattery, I have to tell you.
No, but in a good way, not
but
like
if somebody wants
I'm going to fake this. Yeah, totally. Yeah. No, and I guess that comes back to making those emails personable again, because reaching out with I'm a big fan of the magazine, and it's like, hey, really, have you read it?
Who's on the cover?
That's the question.
I don't know. I'm truly immune to flattery. I will nerd out if I get the chance, but
for sure.
And happily sidetracked with other things. But we do notice if it's not genuine, and I do notice if it's just a copy paste email to everyone. And if you lump me in with your radio emails and ask me to playlist something on the radio station, and I'm like, that doesn't work out. I have no access.
I have no radio station. What do I do?
So it's also to find out what certain media actually do and how they can help you, and making sure you know what you want from them, your call to action. And I have lots of emails where I explain what we do and how we do them, if I must. And
How do you write a call to action that doesn't make it sound like that? Because if you're like writing to a radio station and you're like, you should interview me because I'm really cool.
Well, you don't spell that out. I mean, at the end of the email, it often says any questions, interview requests, and so on. I think that sort of implies it.
Or I say, would you be interested in?
Yeah.
Would you be interested in interviewing me? Do you have any opportunities for features?
Yeah.
Do you think my music's suitable for airplay?
For example, for a long time, New Zealand musician wouldn't cover singles in any shape or form, maybe the occasional music video, until I was like, well, we kind of have to do something that's low effort, that still allows people to be featured, which is when I created Hatchlings, which is New Zealand music as a playlist, and your single, if it's on Spotify, no matter what the music is, if you're a Kiwi living overseas, locally, if you've released a song within the last 4 weeks, I just chuck it on that playlist. So I do get a lot of, and it's growing. It's like a really growing playlist, and I encourage everyone to share it so it gets heard in the context of bigger names like Tammy, and you're on it and you're on there for a month. Constantly rotates. Sounds really awesome sometimes. So sometimes people just say, hey, I've got a song out. Here's the link to Spotify. Can you please edit? And I'm just like, sure, edit now.
That's what you like. Low effort. It's on there.
And as a community of New Zealand musicians, this is so great to have a playlist that has literally 200 brand new songs on it at any given point in time. And you can just, if you don't like it, you skip forward. But it's just something for everyone, and the quality is so high. And it's just this.
Sorry, so you can have a section of that email to make it easier on yourself that is copy paste. Like those details,
sure.
like here is the link to my song, here is the link to my press kit.
Yes.
You can have that part and put that somewhere on your notes that's like all of the information, because you don't want to be retyping.
No.
Because the reality is that emailing people is also time consuming for the artist. But then take that, make that really good and really grammatically correct and really concise, and then add your personal part.
Yes.
When you've done the research on the company. And,
Technical tip. Basically, I am only existing because AI isn't smart enough to do my job, all right? but I found myself writing pretty much the same email 100 times a day, and it was mind-numbing until somebody said, but why don't you create templates in your Gmail where you can even add graphics and whatnot, and then somebody asks you something, and instead of spending 5 hours on comms and you want to cry at the end, you spend an hour on comms and actually get stuff done that helps people afterwards.
Sure.
Absolutely.
So look, if your email address is a Gmail email address, and I know my personal email provider for my little other business has like another client that also allows for that, where you just click a button and it says templates, and it automatically inserts the information you want, and it makes life so much easier.
I'm an out of office
except for manual. You start an email and you call it whatever you want, like template for thank you, got your email.
Okay.
And then, whatever you need. Like, just have a look at, if you Google how to create templates in Gmail, you'll probably find a video that runs you through on how to do it very simply. And you have 5 different ones, one radio, one TV, one print magazines, one newspapers, and one blogs. You just, whatever you need to do to make it easier and save some time, because it's a lot of work.
Makes it much easier to reach out in that way. It seems way less of a daunting sort of looming task, because you've just spent all this time making the music, recording the music. You've already put in so much effort. It would be a shame to then not put in the effort to send it to the right emails to media and give it the legs to walk on to, actually get into people's
You
point
owe
of
it to
view
the
sort of
song.
thing. Yeah, you really do.
Could I ask you guys a question? Do you know what goes into a press release? Like what information you need to include in your press releases? Maybe that's something that would be
go
useful
for it.
to
Yeah,
go over.
yeah, totally.
Because we're talking about all of the mechanical stuff, which is very important. But also when it comes to the writing, that tends to be the thing that everyone struggles with. Press kits are not meant to be huge. I try to keep mine to a page, and that includes bios sometimes as well. So the press release, it's not like a massive thing about the entire song, because people are going to go and listen to it and make their own decisions on what style it's come from and all of that sort of stuff, and have their own opinions. But so like I said, like you have like a little quote from the artist. So like an overall description of how they've come up with the song, maybe their influence, something personal that you can go for. And then you want to have the date, the release date. Release date is important, guys.
Totally.
Because if the release date isn't in the email and in the press kit, then the people you've sent it to are going to have no idea. They're either going to start talking about it before it's even been out,
Yes.
which is not what you want, or they're going to just ignore it because they're like, well, I don't know when this is coming out. So dates are important. Then you want to include the name of the song, because sometimes that doesn't come in. The name of the song, your artist's name, so just your logical stuff. If you're in a band, for the love of God, please go band members' names, full names, and the instrument. Because I have spent several hours cyber stalking bands to try and find out. And some of these bands, some of these hipster indie bands, they like to be a little bit cheeky and they like to give themselves nicknames. And that's fine. I will include those nicknames in there, but I actually need to know who they are. Because then if the journalism isn't accurate, then the journalist looks like a idiot. Make sure all the relevant information is there. And I tend to just map it out as introduction to the song with the dates and everything in the first little paragraph, probably the quote or a little overview of the sound and style. And then, if you have reference quotes from previous songs, from other articles and stuff, I tend to stick it in there. And then I put the bio at the bottom. Again, bio doesn't need to be huge. You want it to be personal. If someone's more established, people already kind of know the history. If you're younger, you want to give a good overview of who you are. In regards to music. You don't need to go off on a huge, I studied uni, I did music in uni, I have
traveled
this
and
stuff.
refound
I
myself.
traveled and refound myself. Like, if it's relevant to the song and to the project, then of course put it in. But the thing is when you go to these places and you do interviews and people get to know you, that's when all of that information is going to come out. You just need that initial introduction, and it needs to be simple, clean, and
easy to see for the person receiving what the song is, what it sounds like, obviously, and who you are.
Yeah,
and
so
why
if
it's
you've got
relevant.
influence behind what you've created, that's always good to talk about. I'm a little hesitant to put I'm trying to sound like Lana Del Rey, because then number one, they're going to compare you to Lana Del Rey, but also it shows that you're not. Yeah, so influencers are.
You want to be correct about that, not deluded.
I would avoid saying what your music sounds like or who it sounds like. That's for the listener to judge, and because as soon as you do that, you isolate people who don't like that music as well. So.
I must say, I'm really happy if somebody gives me a rough genre. If you go, this is pop, then I'm like, oh cool, here I've got a draw for you right away, and I know I have to fill that gap. Yeah. I mean, you don't have to review yourself already for us. That's not what I ask for. But I would appreciate knowing a rough genre, and maybe even if I don't know who you are yet, if you worked with Emily and you say you worked with Emily, I go, wow, that's so cool that they work with Emily because I know what Emily does. It's probably going to be cool and I'm going to like it.
There's nothing wrong with a cheeky name drop.
No.
Yeah, if it's relevant.
If it's
Puts you
relevant.
into context. And if one of your band members was an award-winning band, then put that in brackets somewhere and say, based on, we grabbed him from that band, he's with us now. Cool. Just putting yourself into a context that I can easily digest and do something with.
And then after all of that, put all your links, your
Yes.
digital links to find your music and your social media links.
Website if you have it. Yeah.
Linktree is handy if you want to keep it short and snappy. Put a link tree somewhere, and then it's all there, and you just have to update that every once in a while. And
Sorry, so it's also good to have your recording credits. So
yes,
please work on the
100%.
song.
Yeah.
But again, like what Kat said, the full names of those people and like maybe in brackets if they've worked with other people that are notable or that information is also really useful for media.
Because not only does that make it easier for the person writing, but it also shows the respect to the people you've worked with.
and it lures us in.
It totally right? Like you're saying, like, oh, they've worked with Emily. I know what I know what Emily does.
Seasoned studio musicians that I know will only work with people who write great songs. They wouldn't bother leaving the house for working with anyone if they didn't actually like what they're doing. That speaks for you if you can get people who are sort of already known to work with you. Yeah.
Epic.
And can I just say again?
Yeah.
Please say where you're from.
Yeah.
I do want to know, even that you're from Blenheim, and I'm like, oh my god, I haven't covered anyone from Blenheim for a year. I will go for Blenheim. I want to know that sort of thing.
Yeah, if you're from Auckland, you can say it. It'll be like, oh yeah, cool, another one. But it doesn't, it doesn't matter. Like it's,
From a real small city on a
And
real
then
small island.
quite high up in your introduction, where you say, my release is out this date, listen to it here, watch the video here, for radio, download it here.
very obvious.
Make it at the top, very obvious and very easy.
Sure. Where would you put something for radio to download? Because you wouldn't put it on SoundCloud for them to take.
No, that's right, and that's why sending targeted emails
Also asset folders.
actually works as well.
Assets folders, yeah, absolutely.
If
Yeah.
you have that,
You just put the link to it.
Yeah, with the drive folder with things in it, and you're sending like that folder to people. If it does have a link to an MP3 and someone doesn't need it, they just won't click on it.
Yeah.
As long as you've got everything else that that person needs.
Because they'll just skim right over it. They go like,
Yeah.
oh, like you say, MP3/WAV. Like, oh, I don't need that. But
Yeah.
But the link, I'd say the listen link first.
The listening link's the most important.
Yeah.
And sometimes the video could be the listening link, but mostly you put listen to it here, watch it here, for radio, download it here.
Rather too much but clearly sorted than anything crucial missing.
Yeah.
When
Oh my gosh.
I have very, very little time, I work too much as is.
Yeah.
I don't want to ask you questions. I want that right there. I don't want to go, and have you got a link to Spotify? Because that's the only way I can playlist it. And you gave me a Bandcamp link. I cannot. People will quite often send me files or links to Bandcamp, and then they will say, "Can you please put that on your Spotify playlist?" And I'm like, "Let me explain how this works." Because I literally can't. So
But have a separate. I really like your advice on templates. Right, when the song on release day, or the week of release, you have a template for Spotify playlist pitching. So that's third-party Spotify playlists, like Hatchlings, which is an awesome playlist. So you just go, "Hey Silke, the song is out. It's Kiwi. Here you go."
yes,
That's it. Because then it
Thank
straight away takes you to
Yeah.
Spotify, and within Spotify, it's super easy for you to go, sweet, drag and drop, or whatever it is.
and I listen to that all day.
And I think that's something. Oh, sorry, I need to jump on.
So, and that's another reason for making it targeted, because, for example, if you were sending your new release information to online websites, you wouldn't be sending them the private SoundCloud link because you don't want that published on a website. So you would be sending them, this will be the Spotify link. This is the link to Spotify when it's released.
And actually, a really cool note. if you're releasing through a distributor like DRM New Zealand, they'll give you a pre-save link with pre-orders on iTunes, Spotify, wherever. And on release day, that will automatically turn into so you can already have the emails written out, because there's often like sort of a 2-week lull in work before the release. Most of it's sort of 6-8 weeks in advance. Then there's 2 weeks where not much happens, and that's maybe where you can draft those emails, or even if you're brave, schedule them. I wouldn't, but just draft them, have them in your drafts, and then on release day or release week, you can go read over it. Looks good. The link works. Send. And then that link that originally was pre-saves and is a whole nother world for fans and audiences to support you, is now the direct Spotify link. It's now the direct iTunes link, whatever people prefer.
We've talked a bit more in depth about that on some of the podcasts.
Yeah. It's totally
okay,
true.
Cool, but how do I'm like, it sounds like a plug, but it's
Bring us out.
there is so much more to this whole process, and that is what we're trying to cover with the podcast episodes. If you leave today and you're like, sick, but I don't even know how to record my song or release my song or anything, we're going to have podcast episodes, some of them already out on that kind of information, so that should help you.
You got the Spotify link to that?
May I inject something that I've been in recent times like, which I noticed has been happening more and more. People forget about Bandcamp, that it exists.
Yeah.
For me as media, Bandcamp is awesome because it embeds easily, it looks good, you can click through, you can even sell your merch. I can enable that your merch is even displayed when I embed it.
Wow.
Whereas Spotify, people can listen to 20 seconds, and I'm not getting paid by Spotify. I don't want to channel people towards big platforms that don't pay me to promote them, and I kind of have to pick one. If I pick Spotify, I will probably not use Apple, not use any of the other ones.
Yeah.
If it's Bandcamp, anyone can check out your music and buy it right there, and maybe buy your merch. And true music fans will probably still appreciate that. And
Bandcamp reports directly to the New Zealand chart as well. So
for sales.
selling your music on Bandcamp
Huge.
counts as much as selling it anywhere else.
Yeah.
I feel no one should miss out on that, even if you think that's maybe not your target group because you're top 40 pop. Doesn't matter. It's also a place where I can find the album or single artwork at a decent size that I could theoretically use for print.
Yeah.
And that's an issue quite a lot, where I'm like, I want to feature this music, but I can't even find the artwork. I can't show people because I can't find the album artwork anywhere, not even on the Facebook. If it's on Bandcamp, it's likely it's there. If it's on Bandcamp, there are likely the lyrics, and I'm like, thank goodness there are lyrics. Liner notes. It's just a great tool for me doing research, see the city you're from, the genres you think you are. I'm a big fan of Bandcamp, and I have a budget every month that I spend on Bandcamp.
It's pretty much a substitute to having an artist website for a while. If you don't want to pay a platform, like a monthly or annual fee, it's totally free to list music on Bandcamp, and you can pop your artist bio on there so that anyone can find that. And if someone decides to feature you randomly that you haven't reached out to, they can find all the info they need, and it makes it more likely for them to feature you randomly.
For example, Phaser Days. We all know who Amelia from Phaser Days is.
Ex-New Zealand musician employee.
Also did our course.
Yes. Yeah.
Lovely human being. She got a tour manager for the UK and I think Asia by posting through Bandcamp. He found her, the guy in the UK, loved it, was like, I think we've got an audience for you over here, and that's how she started playing internationally. So there's no right or wrong way to do it. Your music can be transitioned to different places. Sorry, my wording today is not working very well, but you don't have to do it the same way that everyone else is doing it. My first release, I piggybacked off our friend Max, who helped me with my release. Some of it went well, some of it didn't work for me because I have very different music to him. So I learned what I needed from that, and then I learned from other people. So trial and error. But back to the press kit, just to stay on focus. One thing that we should talk about is the press and the PR doesn't stop when the song releases. I carry on for at least a week, maybe 2, depending on what's going on, communicating with radio to set up interviews, because once the song's out, that's when some people tend to pay attention. They don't always pay attention at the beginning. They want to wait until it's actually out.
Yeah.
And just to jump on that, it's really fun to have that original email like, hey, this is a song, it's going to come out. But if you send another email or even a follow-up on the same, like 2-3 weeks later, saying, oh, it's been amazing having so much attention on the song, it's been amazing getting this radio play, or whatever it is that you've achieved, then sharing those achievements in a genuine way, like you're excited about them.
Yeah.
Like, hey, do you want to jump on this hype wagon? Like, let's do something together. It's
that sore puppy syndrome that we have over here. It makes it, we feel uncomfortable pushing our own stuff. We all do it. I'm better at pushing other people's stuff than my own stuff. It's always going to be the way. But there's no harm in expressing excitement and revisiting people, especially if you're like, I think they'd really like it. Maybe they just didn't pay attention. There's no harm in sending a second email.
Yeah.
And
no
also,
harm.
the music industry here is really small compared to internationally. And everybody here is really, really approachable. And I cannot think of anybody at any level in the music industry who would actually say, why did you ring me? Like if you ring anyone and ask a question, everybody I know would be really helpful.
Yeah.
So, if you rang a student radio station and said, look, I can see that I've had traction on 2 other radio stations, and I'm just wondering, like, is there somebody have I sent it to the wrong person at your station? Have I sent it the wrong way? Everybody appreciates those questions. Just ask questions. And the same when you write your stuff and want to present it, ring people and ask them, what do you think this looks like? Should I change it? Is there anything I should add?
And can I just say, I get a lot of emails, and emails are my biggest frustration and biggest hate about my job. But if somebody actually follows up and stands up for themselves and sends me reminders, I will remember that you followed up. I remember that about publicists. If publicists say, did you have the time? And I go, that's a great publicist right here, because most publicists seem to take money and then think the job is done. But if there's somebody who calls or follows up and said, have you thought about it, any chance? Then I go, because I feel I'm very much there for the artist, and I do this because I love music. If somebody speaks up for you, or if you speak up for yourself, I'm like, yes, go you, and I'm rooting for you.
I think there's something to keep in mind as well, is that there's so much variation in media, from small media companies to large media companies. And sometimes, and honestly most of the time, because everyone is a busy person, even from like the small companies to the big companies. Yeah. If you don't get response, like, don't be disheartened by that.
Yeah.
Like, certain stations like BFM literally say on their website, like, we most likely won't reply to you. And that's just because they're so busy. If they like it and they do something with it, they probably will respond to you. But if they don't respond to you, or you don't get this, like, anything from that, it's so easy to be disheartened. But it might simply just have been that it doesn't fit right now, or they've got a lot else going on, or they're just really busy. So there's lots of reasons why whatever you're targeting might not have worked at that moment. And just
Bring them up.
Yeah.
Ring up and ask someone.
It's
All they can do is say, try a different person. Or like,
breaking into.
we live in this digital age, but don't forget, you can talk to people.
Yeah.
And it's never personal if we say no, because face it, like, when I say no, and I literally say no probably 98% of the time, it's really tough on me personally as well to have to say no, and when you follow up and I still have to say no, it's the worst. But you have to see it a little bit like a lottery. No matter where you are in your career, how many songs you've released and how great it is, with every action you do, you buy yourself a lottery ticket, basically. Like, you have a great press release, you have a great song. Your great song is only one lottery ticket, really. And you do everything right, and it might still fail because it's a lottery and somebody else's ticket will be drawn. The more tickets you have, the higher the likelihood it will succeed.
Yeah.
But it might still not get there, and you can't be disheartened, because that doesn't mean your music is rubbish, that you're doing a bad job. That is not what it is. It's sometimes just chance. And you have to just keep going, be resilient, stand up for yourself, keep going, keep going.
But however, all those things we've talked about, there's hardly any one thing that's more important than another. So I like to think of it like a wheel. So all those things you're doing are just creating your profile and your music and your career to progress round and round. So recording your music, releasing your music, doing being on digital platforms, using social media, playing live, all of that. Every time you play live, you use your social media, you use your digital platforms connect to your live gigs, everything connects, and you use all of them all of the time as a cycling wheel. So just it's all creating a build.
And it starts rolling by itself after a while. Once you've reached out to those radio stations and you've done a few interviews with them, they're quite likely to say, yes, come back. Your music is awesome. I know you and I've seen you. Please come back. You know?
It's a bit like bouncing a basketball. You still got to give it a little push at the top.
Yeah.
And if somebody does you some great reviews, invite them to your shows.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, totally.
Yes, please. Say thank you.
Share it online.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Because it's like, because I know how much time goes into an article, and then I work sometimes I do the door for events, music events specifically. And so I'm the one sitting at the guest list, and I know the person who wrote the article for the band, and they're not on there. And I wonder, have they been asked? And quite a lot of times you spend all this time and you're not getting invited to the upcoming gig, and you're not being thanked. So just a little bit of humility. Yeah.
Oh, you guys had a release show. That's nice. That's incredible.
Listening party. I sing on that. So just remember the people who are there, your support team. Remember your support team, and I don't mean your flatmate who never does anything. Remember the people who literally support you and give time and love.
Yeah.
And just say thanks.
I even in the email actually that I reach out, I tend to say, like, if you want to come to the show, like, let me know. We have a number of comp tickets that I want to go to the right people, you know? Like, I want people who want to be at the gig to be at the gig. Yeah.
That's that thing. If you go and read all the bios of all the artists that you like, you will realise that you do have something interesting to say.
Yeah, research is, that's how I learned how to do what I do. I looked at other people's. I watched what other people were putting out. I wrote for a year with Silke, so I got sent press kits. Some were not good. Some didn't even come with a press kit sometimes. That's very weird. But, like, you work out, and like, everyone's individual. There's always a way to do it, and there's always people willing to help, especially in this country. Everyone loves helping each other.
Yeah.
You never know where you're going to end up.
Exactly what you were saying before. Everyone's reachable, you know, like just talk to people.
In the end, we're all rooting for you.
Yeah.